Last compromise, very short, I promise here. We're going to talk about the war debt compromise. It is definitely not the most important compromise that we deal with the Constitution, but it has big impacts today here. They're designing the Constitution well after the Revolutionary War, and so there's a lot of debt. Okay, each state they had to borrow a lot of money in order to build the successful army to defeat the British and all that. They owe money to people that helped them out. And at the time, the economy in the North is developing industry. They don't have good farmland, so they have to rely on different industries up there, and those industries are not taking off. Again, we're talking about before the Constitution. So these states up there are small and they're not even cooperating with each other. So their economies are pretty terrible. In the South, the states are bigger, the states have good farmland, and so the Southern economy is based on agriculture. And don't forget, in those states in the South, they're not paying the people that are working on these large farms. And so the economies in the South are incredibly successful. The economies in the South, they had no problem paying off their war debt. They paid off their war debt very quickly. By the time the Constitution is written, which is 6 years after the Revolutionary War, the states in the North have not been able to pay off their war debts. And so this is a big deal. The people designing the Constitution want the United States government to settle every state's war debt. So that would mean that the United States itself was going to pay off all the war debt. Now, that's going to make the southern states very angry. They've already paid off their war debt. And how is the United States going to get the money to do this? They're going to tax the people. They're going to tax all the people. And so that basically means that the way the people in the South see it is that the South is being forced to pay for the northern debt. Now, there are a lot of reasons for this. One of the big things here is what they did to pay the debt is the United States government sold bonds, which is where the United States government borrows money from people and promises to pay it back in the future at a higher rate. And so that means that rich people are going to allow the United States government to borrow money. That's really important because that now means that the richest people in the United States have a lot at stake. Now the richest people in the United States have to do whatever it takes to make sure that the United States itself survives so that they can eventually be paid back. But that does not solve the problem of the southern states being angry that they paid their debt off and now the North is going to get away without having to pay their debt. And so, in order to get this big compromise done, and keep in mind who the people are that are writing this, particularly James Madison from Virginia, they got an agreement that the capital of the United States would be moved to the South. So the capitals before had been New York and Philadelphia, northern cities. Now we're going to construct a new capital for the United States government, and that capital is going to be in the South. We don't really think of Washington, D.C. as part of the South today, but it's right in between two southern states. There's a little piece of land taken from Virginia and from Maryland to form the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C., which became our national capital. And so these were both states that were part of the South, and these were both states that allowed slavery. And so Washington, D.C. is where it is today in order to satisfy these southern states who felt that they were being forced to pay off Northern war debt. There's our big three compromises that we're going to talk about. It's going to be really important that we are able to explain why compromise was necessary. That's why Article 7, when you read it, doesn't seem that important, but Article 7 is the cause for these compromises to be made. Got to make sure that you guys can keep the Virginia plan and the New Jersey plan straight and explain how the Great Compromise settled that argument. And we want to be able to make sure that we can explain the lasting political impact of the 3/5 compromise.